Hey, Matt.
Nice to meet you, Greg.
Yeah, hey. Hey, I appreciate you calling me. You said it's okay to record this, right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I'm recording too.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm publisher of the Jail Report, and I also run AugustaCrime.com, and I don't know whether you know those publications. I'm also a crime reporter for the Augusta Press, so I wear a lot of hats and I have a lot of reach, and I look through a lot of reports. This one kind of stuck out for me because it seems like it represents what a lot of people are talking about with privacy and health information and stuff like that. But it sounds like you really had a time there in Augusta. Are you in Augusta right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what you can say about it and what maybe explain? I've got the report here and it talks about you just not wanting to share your COVID information, and they kind of reacted to that.
Yeah. So what it was I went to take the GRE, um, and the testing center, they gave me a form to fill out about COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually filled out the form completely how they wanted me to, but I wrote at the bottom a question, and it was something to the effect of, does this constitute, private health information under HIPAA? Question mark. Please, you know, protect my information in accordance with the law, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what I wrote. And I'm not an attorney. I don't know everything about HIPAA, but what I do know is that they're probably not covered providers under HIPAA.
Yeah.
So I thought simply that they were going to roll their eyes and be like, well, it it really doesn't apply to us. So whatever, go back and take your test.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't how they reacted. They, told me that they were going to have to that I was going to have to reschedule. I think at first they said, well, you're going to have to redo the form. And I said, well, I don't understand why I can't write that on there. And they said, well, you're going to have to reschedule. And I said, okay, I'll reschedule. Not a problem. Can you just give me something in writing that says why I can't take it today? And they said, you need to leave or we're going to call the police. And I said, okay, well, go ahead and call whoever you want to. I don't want to stop you from, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But I'll step out in the hall and wait to talk to the police. So I never thought for a second that that's how they were going to approach the issue. I thought it was going to.
Your main point in writing what you wrote was what? It seems in the report that it's connected to COVID.
Yes, the form was connected to COVID. It was a statement about COVID. So
were they asking whether you were vaccinated? Is that what they want to know, or whether you'd ever had it, or whether you had the symptoms of it that day, or what?
yes, kind of all that stuff, and it wasn't questions as much as it was like a big long statement about COVID and whether I'd been in the vicinity of anyone with COVID, and if I had symptoms and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So my main issue, right, is, I'm not a doctor, so me going around and asking people information about their health or their, medical history would be inappropriate. People should be able to tell me, hey, I don't want to talk to you about this.
Sure.
Right. So I feel the same way. Like there's lots of laws, HIPAA, Roe v. Wade, all these kind of laws say that people have a right to privacy, especially when it comes to healthcare. The Fourth Amendment, all these things would say, your information is private and we should treat it as such. So that was my main thing. I wasn't unwilling to take the test. I just wanted to, protect my health information as best as possible.
Okay. Did you have any feeling that they were just trying to protect the people who were in the building?
Yeah, so I understand why they might have wanted to do that. What they're trying to do is maybe limit their liability if someone says, "Oh, I came to your testing center and I caught COVID,"
Mm-hmm.
right? But here's a problem, right? on those forms, people are going to just sign it and date it. They're probably not going to even read it fully. They might even lie on it and say that they don't have symptoms when they know they do have symptoms because they're trying to take the exam. They paid for the exam. They're there. They want to take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the form captures what they're trying to do in limiting their liability. Additionally, Georgia has already ruled that, if you enter into a private establishment and you catch COVID, then that establishment isn't liable for you catching COVID.
Yeah.
I was wearing a mask, following that request that they made. I'm happy to do almost everything, but I also think that if you're going to ask me a question, then there's a certain amount of responsibility that goes with that, and following, HIPAA law, or at least acknowledging that HIPAA laws exist, is part of that responsibility.
Sure.
That was just my main concern was, because if we take the argument to the extreme, right? Mm-hmm. So what if churches for some reason start asking people private medical information, such as, maybe if they've had an abortion, maybe if they've, engaged in sexual activities, and use those sort of things to exclude people from belonging to a church or a school or an organization of some sort that might have whatever, I don't think that's appropriate. And I think that, medical providers are allowed to ask medical questions. And even then it has to be in the scope of their job, So if I'm going to the doctor because I have COVID, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Is it appropriate for him to ask me about my sexual history? Maybe not. Maybe. I'm not a doctor, but probably not.
Yeah.
So even medical providers are sort of limited in the scope of their questioning, if you will.
Well, tell me what happened after this, because they did call the police, and then will you take me through that?
Yes. So I was out in the hallway. I talked to the police, and I kind of asked the police officer, if he would help me get that paper back. He said, and he said, well, maybe it's a policy that it can't leave the building. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But if you could at least ask them if they could give me the paper back, because it does have my information and my signatures on it. And that since I'm not taking the exam today, why do they need it? So that was my first request to the officer. And the second request was, I just want a report so that I can basically go explain, what happened.
Yeah.
So the officer went in there. He talked to the lady. I don't know what she said or didn't say, but the police officer came out and he said, he was asking for my ID, and he said, you're going to be criminally trespassed. And I said, okay, well, here's my ID. And I said, I don't know why I'm being criminally trespassed, because I'm willing to leave right now.
Yeah.
And then I went to attempt to demonstrate my willingness to leave by actually walking and leaving.
Away from the building?
Yeah, so we were in a shared hallway inside the building. There's a bunch of different businesses in there, right? So they asked me to leave their area, which I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to make it hard for the police to find me, mm-hmm. or seem to be fleeing the area. So I was down the hall near the elevators when the police got there, and that's kind of where we talked the entire time. So I actually walked to the elevator and pushed the button to go down to the first floor and leave.
Yeah.
So at that time, the police still had my license, and they said something about, well, you're leaving your license. And I said, okay, come on, let's go. And that's when the police officer grabbed me and arrested me for obstruction. So I'm not sure what I was obstructing, because I was willing to comply with his request.
Yeah.
I was trying to demonstrate that by leaving, which seemed to be the ultimate goal.
Sure.
For the people in the testing center and the police officers. And then I gave him my ID so he could write me whatever ticket he wanted to write me, you know. So I think it's kind of a strange charge to be for obstruction. It was misdemeanor obstruction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I hindered him doing his job. I don't understand.
Let me read you from the report and you react to what they wrote, okay? Reyburn again started asking questions in reference to his rights and why he should have to leave the building. While attempting to explain to Reyburn that he was not allowed back in the building, Reyburn turned and walked away. Deputies ordered Reyburn to stop, at which time he did. Deputies attempted to detain Reyburn by placing handcuffs on his left hand. When deputies grabbed his right arm, Reyburn snatched away and refused to put his right arm behind his back. Reyburn was taken into custody and charged with misdemeanor obstruction.
Sure. So there's a couple of things about that report. First, they arrested me for obstruction, and at the point that they were arresting me, I don't know what I did to obstruct anything. The second thing is, you know, when someone grabs your arm and twists it behind your shoulder, it hurts sometimes. Mm-hmm. And jerking away from a police officer is kind of a normal response, I would say. It's, you know, did I mean to do it? No, it was just a natural thing that happened. Yeah. You know, I did follow the commands when I stopped. You know, he admitted, hey, he stopped when he told me to. I wasn't trying to, you know, they didn't charge me with resisting. They didn't charge me with, you know, fighting or anything like that. I wasn't trying to not get arrested. I'm not happy that I got arrested, but yeah, that's basically it. It was a natural reaction when you're in pain, you kind of jerk away from it.
Did you talk about it on the way to jail? Was this the officer that you know, took you to jail, the same one that said you obstructed?
Yeah, there were two officers there. I think one of them, the junior officer, was pretty nice and reasonable. And then the senior officer, his name was Manecki, badge 4103.
Okay, Brian, Deputy Brian Manecki.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we did talk about a lot of stuff on the way to jail and even at the jail. Mm-hmm. You know, he at one. I don't know how much of this I actually want to share, just because it kind of reveals like my employment and stuff.
Okay, yeah, let's share what you want to share and don't share what you don't want to share.
Okay. We did have a conversation, and he asked me, you know, something, and I told him about, you know, the amendments to the Constitution and how important they were to me. You know, this is fundamentally the most important thing. The first, for the 27th Amendment, you know, especially the first, you know, 14, because they protect individual liberties as much as possible. This is what gives people the right to, you know, conduct themselves how they will, freedom of association, freedom of religion, you know, bodily autonomy, all those really important things that say, you know, you are a full human being. Mm-hmm. You know, your opinions and thoughts and beliefs matter to you, but the world at large, and the world can't force you to do things. So we did have that conversation. I don't know if he really understood it or not. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt as a police officer who took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Yeah. But his actions would say that maybe he has a slight misunderstanding of some of those liberties.
Okay. What happened at the jail? How long were you there? How was your experience?
I was there 26 hours.
26, really?
26 hours.
Is that because you didn't have the money to bond out, or because they didn't allow you to?
They didn't allow me to. So at one point, one of the guards told me that Officer McKinney hadn't sworn out the warrant, and that's why I couldn't post bail or bond out.
Wow. Okay.
So Officer McKinney at the jail during the intake process kind of, he told me he had 72 hours before he had to do anything, and kind of indicated that he might take all 72 hours, which, my response was, okay, well, the longer I'm here, the bigger the lawsuit is going to be. So I was there for 26 hours. I ate 3 meals that were definitely not great. Definitely not enough food.
Really? Okay. You want to expand on that?
Do what?
Did you want to expand on that? It was just you seem to be emphasizing the meals.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a pretty small guy. I'm 5'4". I weigh like 160.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat like a ton of food at home anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But in jail, when you're cold and kind of like maybe at an elevated heart rate because lots of things are going on,
Mm-hmm.
The amount of food that I was given, I was hungry the entire time. I was starving.
Wow.
There were a couple things that, so I read the inmate handbook while I was there because, why not? What else I got to do?
Right.
And the handbook said that I was allowed to have a Bible. I kept asking for a Bible, and I kept on being told, well, you have to wait. Mm-hmm. So, I patiently waited, and I never received the Bible. So
26 hours.
For 26 hours.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then I also never received linens. The handbook also says that you're supposed to be given certain things: towel, face cloth, linens, soap, toilet paper, that sort of thing. I was never given any of that. And I was not the only person to not receive any of that stuff. There were several people in there, people who had been there longer than me as well, that did not have it. We had one officer, the morning that I left, an officer got there probably around 6 a.m. and I actually really liked her. She seemed to be very upfront and wanting to do the right thing about stuff. And she tried really hard to go get linens, but I guess, she's the only person to ask anyone if they needed them.
Yeah.
She was the only person to write people's names down that needed them. And then she went and left the cell block to go find them and came back and said that there were none available. So
how did that affect your, I guess, experience there? I mean, obviously, the jail is not supposed to be the most comfortable place, but what did that make as far as the environment for you?
So, if, like you said, jail's not comfortable, but I think it should be somewhat sanitary. If I wanted to wash my hands, I couldn't do it because there was no soap available to wash my hands,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also toilet paper. If I had to use the bathroom, then, what's the end state with that?
Yeah.
So, I might be able to understand, like, a couple hours without it, but a full day, it seems kind of, and like I said, other people had been there longer than me and they hadn't received them either. So it's one of those things, like, how long is acceptable?
Yeah. Okay.
So
you did finally get out?
I did, yes.
Okay. If you don't mind me, just to kind of circle back, the GRE test, will you explain that to those who may not understand it?
So it's an assessment to see if you're capable to go to graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
So for, not all graduate programs need a GRE, but some of them do. So
you were trying to take one of that. Your Facebook page says you're a lieutenant in the Army. Is that still the case?
I'm a captain in the Army.
Captain in the Army. Okay. So is that why you're in Augusta? Is there a connection to Fort Gordon?
Yes.
Okay, because I also see that you're a family man.
I am.
Okay. So
Yep.
tell me your connection to Augusta, because it says you're from Idaho.
Yes. So, I'm from all over, but, I went to college in Idaho, and I intend to go back to Idaho to settle down and retire after my career in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
So I am here at Augusta to attend Triple C, which is Captain's Career Course, and then to take a company command position for a TRADOC unit, training, 25 uniforms or Bravos or whatever. So I'm here for that purpose, really to work.
Okay. So does this do anything as far as messing that up? Just the arrest itself, or about your faith in this area?
You know, so right now I'm flagged. So it's a suspension of favorable actions in the Army, and it's pretty standard procedure for any sort of arrest.
Mm-hmm.
My arrest, it's not as unfavorable as perhaps like a DUI or a domestic violence charge or something like that, but it's standard that if someone gets arrested, they're flagged, they're pulled from whatever course. So I have been pulled from Triple C
Mm-hmm.
as a result of this, pending the outcome of the case. So when I go to court, whatever happens can either negatively or go back to my career. But this has basically just put my career on pause. It's not necessarily had any kind of negative effect. And then as far as faith in the area, I think police officers are good people generally. Like, I think everyone's a good person generally. Some people have different ideas, and some people have bad days, and sometimes they go above and beyond, let's say, in their duties.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly why I got arrested again, because I wasn't obstructing anything by the definition of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think I was criminally trespassing by definition of the law. So,
Well, I don't know whether you know this, but when they say they're criminally trespassing you, they're not saying we're going to arrest you for criminal trespassing. They're saying that we are letting you know that you are not welcome back at this place. You are put on notice.
Yeah, so that does kind of confuse me. The officer did explain he's not arresting me, and that's one reason I felt at liberty to walk away, was because he told me that he was not arresting me.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, I must be free to go then if I want to go. And then I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, so that was one reason. And then I just didn't understand, what exactly that. I didn't really understand the whole thing at all, because I don't think I did anything to criminally trespass. They asked me to leave and I left. I was invited there.
Yeah.
I didn't, I might have said something controversial, but I didn't, insult anybody or yell or cause a scene. That's why I wrote it on the paper instead of, walking up and slamming it on the desk or anything like that. I don't feel like I caused a scene.
Right.
I feel like it was escalated, and I definitely think that, if any business has this in the future, you just simply say, okay, can you please leave? And either we'll reach out to you or you can reach out to so-and-so at this phone number.
Yeah.
About the issue, and we'll fix it. If I had a business, that's what I would tell people. If they don't want to follow whatever, just ask them to leave and say, Matt's going to reach out to you at this phone number.
So that's the way you feel like they should have reacted in this case. Do you look back on this and think there's anything you should have done differently?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I should have definitely, you know, just left. I mean, it's I'm sure that I could have just left the entire thing and then called later.
Yeah.
You know, the issue, my thinking at the time was, well, I don't want to run from the police.
Yeah.
So that's why I did stick around. But, you know, talking to police too, they would not have come and looked for me if I had just left. They wouldn't have seen it as like a criminal trespass and someone fleeing. But I didn't understand that at the time.
Okay. And you know, the elephant in the room here is the question of whether you're vaccinated, whether you're an anti-vaxxer, whether that plays a role in this. Do you want to address any of that?
I don't. So, again, medical information is private, and it should remain.
Just want to make sure. I want to make sure and at least ask. Well, good, because that is the big debate in this country. You know, is vaccination, not vaccination? Should we be forced? You say you are a captain in the Army, correct? Enlisted.
Correct.
Didn't Biden announce that all military had to be vaccinated?
He did. He said that all federal workers and private sector employees receiving funds with 100 people or more should or are mandated to be vaccinated. So,
but I thought military had to be. I thought he was ordering that all military be vaccinated. Am I wrong about that?
So the Secretary of Defense did that, and then Joe Biden did it as well. Yes, you're correct.
Okay. So wouldn't that answer the question? Because you are enlisted, right? You're current active military, right? Correct?
I'm active military. I'm an officer in the Army, not enlisted.
Okay. Not enlisted?
Nope, I'm an officer.
Okay, all right. Good, so it's accurate to call you an Army captain?
Yes.
At Fort Gordon?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else I haven't asked you about in this case? I know you'll have an upcoming court appearance where you'll have to answer these charges. Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, you know, again, it goes back to, you know, what legal process did I obstruct to lead to my arrest? That's really the big question that I have for, you know, the sheriff's department, and that's what I kind of need to be explained, you know. So right now I'm just going through the process of gathering all the information, the 911 call, the video cameras, and all that stuff. But, you know, when it comes down to it, fundamentally, you know, people's information is private. You know, there are laws in Georgia on the books that outlaw sodomy, right? Mm-hmm. Not forced sodomy, just, you know, elective sodomy. And does that now give police officers the right to arrest, you know, people who they suspect might be, you know, having oral or anal sex? That's probably, you know, a Fourth Amendment protected activity. And that's the big picture, you know.
Yeah. How
far do we allow either private companies or government companies to intrude in on our medical information, especially?
Yeah. And so it sounds like that was important enough to you to put your test in jeopardy, to stand up on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I wrote that on the paper, I didn't think for a second that I was putting anything into jeopardy. I definitely didn't think I was going to go to jail over it, because my limited knowledge on HIPAA, if someone had handed me that paper, I would have rolled my eyes and said, okay, whatever, HIPAA doesn't apply to us, go take your test. But, you know, that's that isn't what happened.
Yeah. Mm. Well, listen, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you'll keep me updated on this case, and I appreciate you being willing to talk about it. I'm gonna take this and just formulate it and use it on our media, and I'll let you know where we post it. Okay.
Okay, I look forward to reading it.
Thank you. And just as a note, you did say that are you residing in Augusta right now, or is it on the base, or can I say like what city?
Currently I'm in Augusta.
Okay, so specifically the city of Augusta. Not in the Augusta area, but
yeah, Augusta area.
Okay, so because for us there's a difference. There's Columbia County. Sometimes people call that Augusta, but it's technically Columbia County. Martinez, Evans, Grovetown. A lot of Fort Gordon people stay in Columbia County and things like that. So I didn't know. I wanted to be as accurate as possible.
I guess I'd prefer not to have that information.
Okay, but you're staying in the Augusta area.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Hey Matt, thank you again. I wish you the best of luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay.
Okay, awesome. You too. Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Bye.